folks. I'm Craig Lipinski.
I'm Seth Castellum.
And I'm Chris Dunn.
And you're listening to episode 19 of Ludowave Radio, the smooth sounds of video game talk. And I'm still employed, just in case you were wondering. I'm still a bum leeching off society. I'm sorry.
Chris, you owe me $10.
It's in the mail already.
Thank you.
I did my employment re-education yesterday.
How did that go?
That was a colossal waste of my time. So it was basically like it was last time, just spread out over several hours instead of 20 minutes.
Oh God.
Yeah, it was watching a PowerPoint about how to sign up for LinkedIn. That sucked. And then I had to meet with an adjudicator to make sure that I was compliant. And he was like, "Yeah, you're fine." And it was like 2 seconds. And then I had to meet with this perfectly pleasant woman, to go over my resume and make sure that I'm, doing everything I can to get a job. And she's like, looked at my resume. She's like, this is pretty much the kind of resume that we use to show as an example how to write a resume. And I'm like, yeah, no, I know. That's, lady, the problem isn't me. It's just, I'm sure there are people more qualified for me pursuing these roles. It's not surprising, Eventually, I'll get someone who's desperate enough to take me. It's fine. We'll get there. And then you have to sign up for a mandatory class. And so it's on top of all this.
Wait, this wasn't the class?
No, this was several hours of not the class. So then there are several classes you can take, like Intro to Word and, just this Mickey Mouse stuff. And I'm like, I gotta be honest with you, I don't really know what any of these classes are going to do for me. I mean, I'm not going to sit here and tell you I know everything. I'm still unemployed, so obviously maybe I'm not doing something right. She's like, well, how about you just do fundamentals of interviews or whatever? And, that seems like the one that if you're going to pull anything out of, that might be the one. I said, fine. So that's 2 weeks from now. So next episode, you'll hear me bitching about that.
Sounds like it's rough being unemployed, man. It sounds like they just try to annoy you into getting a job.
Well, yeah, that's what it seems like. It makes you feel like they make you feel sort of dumb. Here's LinkedIn. Here's how to sign up. You click the sign up button, and in the next window, and they also make you feel sort of dumb and guilty of something. I'm not really sure. And child.
But did they get you to sign up for LinkedIn?
Yeah, man. I got I just started LinkedIn today.
Nice.
Instead of a PowerPoint on how to get a job, they should show you a Goofy cartoon or something. At least make it entertaining. Dude, this was the most bureaucratic fucking place of all time. Beige walls and gray desks. Oh, and at every computer station, there wasn't a pamphlet for jobs. There were army pamphlets. It was just a cartoon guy of someone shrugging his shoulders saying "out of options." That was it. I made that part up, but
I was going to say that sounds like a pamphlet from The Simpsons.
That's basically a Simpsons pamphlet. So yeah, it wasn't completely awful, but it's basically a waste of my time. I am sure, in our group, there were definitely older people there, and I want to tread carefully here, or I don't want to sound judgmental or presumptuous, but maybe lower income people. And, some of these folks maybe have not been in the job market for a while, or maybe they don't have access to things they need to get a job. So I'm glad that this stuff exists for them. It's not for me,
Right.
So, I don't know. It feels like a waste of time, but I don't know.
Yeah, it seems like maybe for some people it's necessary to have this be required in order to, and I don't want to be judgmental either, but in order to get people to, do what they need to do to get a job and to learn these things they need to know. But for people like you, it seems like it would be a waste of time. You could be out there spending that time trying to find a job or doing whatever it is you could be doing that is much more useful.
Yeah,
I'll be judgmental for both of you. These poor lazy fucks need to get their fucking jobs in order, man. They get fucking drags of society. No, I'm just kidding.
Just kidding, but not really. We got it.
Wink.
I don't know. It just sucks, like just how they don't make you feel great doing it. You know, it feels.
They're just preparing you for what it feels like to have a job, Craig.
Because I have no idea what that feels like. But you know, on the plus side, I have a couple of prospects actually that seem pretty promising, so I should hear more about those next week. So don't want to jinx myself, but here's hoping. But otherwise, just been doing a lot of art. Hopefully improving. I fucked something up yesterday. I got really mad. I tried out like new brushes that hold a lot of water, because I have a problem when I do watercolors where I can't do things that are very small and I can't do things that are very big. I can't do the small things because I can't get my brush in there, and I can't do the big things because I just run out of water, and by the time I get more paint and more water, it's already dried, and then it just doesn't look great. And so the solution to that is to use what's called a round brush, which is your stereotypical brush, just sort of fat and then comes to a point, cylindrical, fat, comes to a point. And those are useful because they have the point, they can do the details, and for the big stuff, they hold a shit ton of water, so then you can just go right over and, you know, do a wash. It holds way too much water. I touched it to the paper, and then all of a sudden it was Lake fucking Erie on this piece I was working on. I'm like, well, that's trash. So, yeah, it didn't work out so well. So maybe a little more practice. But I've been enjoying taking the time to improve on that stuff. It's not something I really took the time to do when I was employed, because the drudgery of human existence made me hate doing anything creative.
Yeah, I totally know that feeling. Like, in my job, I mean, even having a creative job, I get home at the end of the day and I'm like, I don't want to do anything remotely creative because it's going to use a part of my brain that I just don't feel like using when I get home.
Right,
you know?
exactly.
So
yeah.
I totally get where you're coming from. And I think, you know, even if this is, you know, something that is not actively helping you find a job, I think this sounds way more useful than this class you're having to do.
That's like, yeah, I was sitting there thinking, like, yeah, I could be painting.
So it sucks that they're forcing you to do something like that when you could be doing something like this. It's at least going to enrich yourself, even if not, you know, actively help you find a job. You know, it's not like you're wasting your time. So,
right,
good for you, man.
That's what. Thank you, I appreciate it. That's what I've been trying to do. Is not, you know, sometimes there are bums. I mean, there's so many hours to fill in a day, and sometimes it's just gonna.
I'm sure you bum around a little bit, but
right. But I try to. I close my Apple Watch rings. I've been pretty good about that, and I do the art. I read, and I look for work. Those are pretty much my weekdays.
I'm looking at your art. Is that the cave Jesus was in?
No, did you read the caption?
Does it say cave Jesus was in?
It does.
It says on hazy summer days, the boys would go to the cave and eat Cheetos and talk about girls.
So the answer to your question is yes. That is the cave where Jesus of Nazareth was reborn.
The rock's not big enough. That's not going to cover the cave entrance. The people could just climb right over that.
You misunderstood. It wasn't a rock. It was a pile of Cheetos.
Oh, okay. That makes sense.
Anyway, that's me. That's me.
So let me do some line art and you paint it.
Sure.
Oh, wait, how would I send it? Well, I guess you could just print it out. I don't know.
Well, I mean, if I'm going to paint it with watercolor, what you want to do is do the line art on, like, at least 140-pound cold-pressed paper.
I can't lift paper.
I know, it's very heavy paper. It's like a whole tree.
I have a mixed media folder. That's the best I could do.
Okay. All right.
Some mixed
that might
media
be good
paper.
enough. That's oftentimes a little bit weaker, but it'll probably hold the water anyway.
All right, we'll see. We'll figure something out.
Okay, something small, because like I said, I can't do big stuff. They'll just be flooded.
All right. Well, I mean, like these are full size 8.5 by 11 sheets of paper that you're doing here, right?
No, these are small. These are a weird size. I actually bought some sheets today that were standard like 5 by 7. These are like some weird like 5.5 by 7 3/4. They're a dumb fucking size, dude.
All right.
No, they're actually pretty small. They're about the size of like a paperback novel.
Okay.
Hmm.
All right.
I used to do big stuff, but like I said, you can see where the paint stops and starts. I got to practice. That's all.
Smaller size can be cool, though.
Really,
I still have that tiny Kahalan Island you painted on my wall.
Yeah.
Cool.
Nice. You actually put that on your wall, not in your closet?
Yeah. No, it's totally on the wall. I can see it right now.
Fantastic. All right. Anyway, that was too much dead air. Seth, how are you?
I'm good. I'm good, Seth lied. No, I'm okay.
We're all going to be lying about that. Don't worry.
Comic-Con was here a couple weeks back. I think the week that we recorded the last episode. So on Saturday, I went downtown because I love to be in huge crowds. No, because every year during Comic-Con, Nintendo does a Nintendo gaming lounge at the Marriott next to the convention center.
Nice.
Yeah, so usually they have unreleased games and stuff. Usually they just bring their E3 display stuff and everything over there. It's like a mini E3 Redux. And every time I've gone 2 or 3 times before. You just walk right into the lounge and there's short lines, maybe 5 to 10 minutes to play a game or whatever, no problem. And this is how I know Nintendo's doing well now, is because when I went this year, there was a 2.5 hour line just to get into the gaming lounge area where the games were. And it was insane. It was wrapped. It was like a 3-part line that wrapped around some hallways and stuff. I was like, what the fuck? Once I was in there for an hour and a half, I was like, well, I'm just going to stick it out now because I'll be stupid to just stand here for an hour and a half and then leave. And then I finally get in there, and literally the only unreleased Switch game that they have available to play is Smash Brothers. There's Mario Tennis and Donkey Kong and Mario Odyssey and Mario Kart, and just I fucking own these games. Why am I in here? And I thought they would at least have Pokemon Let's Go in there, and they had a Pokemon Let's Go TV, playing footage from the game, and then they just had an interactive thing where you could fuck around with the Pokeball that comes with one of the versions, where you could buy separately the $40 or $50 Pokeball, whatever the hell it is, that gives you Mew, and you could there was 3 people manning the station. Nobody wanted to even go to it. I saw one kid there's oh, hold it up to your ear. What do you hear? I'm like, what is going on? Who's just showing the Pokeball? So I was bummed about that. They actually had a pretty cool table with some Labo things out. They had a whole table full of little remote control car type things, whatever the hell, you vibrate the controller around and drive around, and they had a little ball on there, and people were playing very slow robot car soccer with the Labo kits, and that was pretty neat. And then I played some Smash Bros. And
if you're gonna have one game to play that's new that you haven't played yet, at least it's Smash Bros. I mean, it's unique and it's unlike anything you've ever played before. So tell us about it, Seth.
I played it, and it was just like Smash Bros.
What?
I was like, hey, Link looks Link looks different.
So what was it? Was it Fox, no items, Final Destination?
No,
the only way to play.
No. It's Nintendo. They had everything turned on, full items, stages with hazards everywhere.
That's how you're supposed to.
As it should.
No, but whatever. And they had 4 players in, so they had 4 people, and they let you play twice in a row. So I played a couple matches. I played Link, and I couldn't figure out how to get his bombs to detonate at first, because now you got to you got to manually detonate the bombs instead of just throwing them at people and having them explode, which, no, I wasn't a huge fan of, but I'm sure there's some tactics you could work out with that. And then I used Ness, and I couldn't really see anything different about Ness except his shirt texture was nicer.
What other new games do they have coming out that could have been in there anyway?
Well, like I said, Pokemon Let's Go was, just figured that would have been there.
I think
there's Yoshi, but I don't think that's been playable yet.
Monster Hunter, and I think maybe even The World Ends With You?
They're definitely publishing The World Ends With You. I don't know about Monster Hunter. They published the last couple Monster Hunter games.
Square Enix and Capcom are so fucking... They're big fucking babies about publishing on Nintendo systems, I swear to God. Well, every single time Daddy Nintendo's got to take their hand and walk them through the West. I don't fucking get it.
They're like, well, we don't want to do this game in America. I don't know. I'm like surprised they're actually... I guess they have to. They're forced to publish Dragon Quest XI on PS4 themselves because obviously
Nintendo's not going to do that one.
But yeah, no, I don't know. Yeah. So that was a huge waste of time. Oh, but they had a super sweet Dragon Ball booth at the hotel, and it was outdoors, which is really nice because it was like nice day out, and they had like they're giving out free manga it was like a dual manga. It was like the first issue of Dragon Ball, the original Dragon Ball, and you flip it upside down. The other side is like the first issue of Dragon Ball Super, and then they had like some big old Dragon Ball statues and stuff around. I just remember that neither of you guys watched Dragon Ball because you just had terrible childhoods, teenage hoods. But that was fun, and then I got the fuck out of there because there's a million people downtown, and it's not my scene. But it was a huge waste of time waiting in that Nintendo line, and then like spending 10 minutes at the Dragon Ball place made it up.
Nice,
cool.
Yeah, that was me. What have you been up to, Chris?
Fuck all.
Nice.
I did a little bit of art stuff. I was working on a drawing of Samus. I downloaded an app. Thanks. I downloaded an app on my iPad and have been using the Apple Pencil and drawing that way, which I've never done before.
What app are you using, by the way? Are you using Procreate?
No, it's... I don't remember the name of it offhand. I should. I think it was $14, which was a weird price for an app, I feel like, but...
Yeah, I think Procreate's like 10. Are you familiar with Procreate?
No, I haven't used that.
I think good? Yeah, that's what I got. I mean, I guess a lot of people use that, so that's what I got recommended. That's what I use. That's what I use.
Okay, interesting. I don't remember the name of it. I was going to say Audacity Design, but I think that's because I'm looking at Audacity on my screen right now. So obviously that's not right. It's something. It's something Design.
Oh wait, no.
yeah, exactly. But that was kind of fun. Like it's something I hadn't done in a long time. Like I said, I work kind of somewhat creatively at my job day to day, and I come home at the end of the day and I don't necessarily want to do things like that. And I had been having some frustrations with my job, as everybody does, and somebody I work with recommended, hey, go home and do something. Maybe not everybody, but everybody who has a job.
Fair enough.
And somebody I work with, suggested, hey, go home and do something creative. If, you're frustrated with the creative of your job, maybe something else would help you feel a little better. And it did, I spent a lot of time working on some of that stuff. And I ended up posting on Instagram and then immediately deleting it because I wasn't happy with the way it looked at the time. So still haven't reposted it yet, but I appreciate that you think it looked good.
It's better than I can do digitally. I fucking suck digitally, man. I was looking at your
well, I suck at real life paints, so.
Why is this so straight? Why are these curves so curved? Mine are like a child scratched it into the iPad screen. It's so bad.
Yeah. I appreciate it. Like I spent a lot of time trying to figure out exactly how to draw the best on that because I'm used to. I've always been, I draw, with a pen and pencil and paper. I haven't been a digital artist really, and color is certainly not my forte because I was never a painter or anything like that. But I'm trying to learn it a little bit, get a little better at it. So that's been kind of fun.
See, Chris's lines are way better than Craig's. And Craig's coloring is awesome. So you two should just combine and make something awesome.
I don't know about that.
Oh my god!
I think Craig's work is awesome. I don't want to go in and mess around with that.
I appreciate that. I think my line work. My paper line work is fine. It's my digital line work. It's not.
Yeah.
It's not great.
It's fine, but Chris's is better.
I mean, I think it's definitely a different skill. I've been drawing my whole life, but, trying to figure out how to draw on a digital screen is totally different.
There's a little bit of a disconnect there.
Yeah, for sure. Eventually, I had to end up using like there's a stabilizing function to make it less wavy, and there's a delay to it, and so it feels completely different. But I think once I got used to it, I can certainly manage it. But it's definitely not like drawing on a piece of paper to me.
I used to do all those shitty TV and Lust banners on a Wacom tablet, like where I'm like looking at my laptop screen while drawing on a tablet that's like on my lap, and
that's a different thing too.
Yeah.
Oh, actually, you know what? I just opened up Procreate and like a tutorial popped up, and they have drawing assist in here now too.
There you go.
It's like auto-tune for your hands.
Affinity Designer was the name of the app, by the way.
Okay.
So, it was new, and I saw it was out, and I was like, I want to do something creative, so I might as well invest the $14. And honestly, $14 seems like a lot for an iPad app, but when you consider that, Adobe stuff is like $50 a month, it's not so bad. So, that was fun. I also gave up drinking for a month, which was interesting.
Did you get the jitters?
I did not get the jitters, which I think is probably a good sign.
All right. You're not an alcoholic.
Yeah, exactly. I think I drink to self-medicate because I have mental issues, as maybe I'm not alone in that. But
I think this entire podcast might as well be called, like, mental fuck-ups. It'd be fun.
That's kind of what I was getting at, but I'm glad you turned my subtext into text. Thanks for that, Craig.
Let's do a correlation between video games and mental illness.
Yeah. So I quit drinking for a month. I feel better about my drinking. Obviously it's not the most healthy the way I do it, but I feel a little better. So, I'm drinking for the first time in a month tonight. And if this podcast is way better or worse than last week, you know why. So,
well, I'm glad you're back on the wagon.
We'll see how it goes.
It's
all downhill from here.
It's not good to see a person quit like that.
I know. I don't want to be a quitter, so I'm right back up there.
Thank you.
But that's it for me.
Right
Talk about
on.
some video games.
I also hope that you're feeling better.
I am feeling better. I think that the month made me realize some stuff. It made me, I like I said, I figured out some stuff about the drinking. I don't feel like I'm an alcoholic. I actually made an appointment with a therapist, so I'm going to get some of that mental stuff figured out. So overall, I think I'm on the upswing.
Good luck.
Can I just give you things to say to the therapist that are like all from me, but then just like report back to me? Just
how will that help me? Please answer this question honestly.
But it won't. But I'm too lazy to go find myself a new therapist. So I think this third-party system will work okay.
I'm willing to give it a shot.
Thank you.
I'll sell you access to my intern.
Does she do Skype?
I don't think so.
I wonder if I can find a Skype therapist.
That sounds way easier.
You spend 20 minutes trying to initiate the call.
And then you spend the last half of it just talking about how you couldn't initiate the call. How does that make you feel, Seth?
Bad, frustrated.
Yeah.
Frustrated.
Yeah, we all know Skype sucks. All right. Let's talk about some video games here. I have been playing Octopath Traveler. And to answer your question last episode, Seth, am I going to keep playing it? The answer is no. No, I'm not going to keep playing this game.
How far did you get?
I mean, I don't know. I'm like 15, maybe 20 hours in.
Just like chapter-wise or something? I don't know. Percentage-wise of the game?
Yeah, I don't know about percentage. I mean, every character, all 8 characters have 4 chapters. And I was starting like the ring of chapter 2s. And I'm done. There's a lot to like about this game. The characters are they have a lot of personality. They're very charming. The graphics are nice, especially if you turn off the vignette option. The bloom still sucks, but what are you gonna do? The music's great. I've even come around on the battle system. It's not my favorite, but once you have a stable of characters, it really opens up. But there's no imagination put into the progression of the game. You play one chapter of one character, you've essentially played the entire game. They all play like that. It's like a 20-minute cutscene, followed by a very linear dungeon, very brief linear dungeon, a boss battle, another cutscene, and that's it. Proceeding to the next town is also linear, just as linear as the dungeon. It's a very brief jaunt. There are some, minor branches to treasure chests, but it's there's not a lot happening. Everything is like that. That's that's the entire progression of the entire game.
I downloaded some 3DS RPG by like Chemco or something.
They got like a million. I don't know where they got them all.
I did it on a whim. It was like super cheap on sales, probably like $3 or something. I downloaded this RPG. It was the most linear bullshit. Like, just it was horrible. I couldn't play it. I couldn't play it for more than like 30 minutes because it was just me walking from straight path to straight path while fighting some really easy enemies, and I was like, "Fuck! I wasted $3 on this."
Yeah, I wasted $60.
That's a couple more.
It's a few more dollars. There are a lot of people that are enjoying this game. I don't blame them. I mean, I can see where they're getting their enjoyment from, but it's just every chapter for every character, 8 characters, 4 chapters. It's literally the same. It's the same thing over and over again. There's some side quests, but they left. I can't even name one. There's no impression. There's no flavor to the side quests. One was to pick a fight with a guy because he was being a drunk buffoon. So then I had to pick a fight.
Was it Chris?
He was not Chris. No.
Okay.
That was it.
I was not drinking last month, Seth, when Octopath Traveler came out.
Right, that's a good point. Yeah, the side quests are just not. I think they're just there to kind of give you something to do, but there's no effort put into them whatsoever. And then each character has like a path action, which is this optional thing that you can engage with. So like the merchant can buy things from just like random people. Often at a very slight discount versus if they found that item in a store. Okay, all right. The scholar can scrutinize people, which gives you some flavor text on them. Sure, that's fine. Like, there's not, it's not that interesting.
It sounds like they had like ideas, but then couldn't really fully implement them into anything worthwhile.
That's what it feels like. That's just like I said. That's just one man's opinion. I see a lot of people enjoying this game, but for me, it was like pretty almost literally the same thing over and over again.
Yeah,
I bought the special edition, whatever the hell it was.
And
I'm shocked. Shocked.
And it comes with a pop-up book, and that pop-up book is lit, man. I'm getting my enjoyment just out of this pop-up book.
Yes, I've seen videos of the pop-up book. It looks nice. I mean, that's honestly, that might be the best way to enjoy the game. Is just to look at the pop-up book.
It's a pretty sweet pop-up book, I'm not gonna lie.
But I'm glad the game exists. I just wish I liked it more.
Yeah, I think it's a shame. Like, this is what I've heard in a lot of the reading I've done about the game, is that it just seems very repetitive. Like, the chapters just are all the same, which sucks. I mean, I played the demo and I didn't love it, but I was like, this is interesting. But if I were to play that for 30 hours over and over, I don't know that I would feel quite the same way. So it's too bad.
No puzzles, nothing. I don't get it. Also been playing Overwatch. They revamped this character, Sombra. She's a hacker. Talked about her, I think, a little bit last episode. I was talking about, I doodled her, so I think I was talking about her a little bit. They changed the way she played. Previously, she had these 2 abilities. She can go invisible, and you
could hack people.
What?
And she could hack people.
She could hack people.
Which disabled their specials and stuff,
Yep,
right?
Yep. She can hack enemy players and disable all their abilities. And she can hack health kit spawn points, too, which makes them spawn faster and prevents opponents from using those health kits. So it's a good way to control the battlefield. But she also has this ability called Translocator, and she throws down like a beacon, and you have about 16 seconds for it while it's active, something like that, and then you can teleport yourself back to your beacon. So you can throw down your Translocator, go invisible, run behind enemy lines, hack some big bruiser or whatever, and if it gets a little sticky, beam yourself back to your Translocator. And so apparently internally what they were doing with her was trying to push how long she could stay invisible and how long the Translocator could be out and for the game to still be fun. And it turns out forever. Forever was the answer. So now she can stay invisible forever.
What?
And her translocator can stay out forever.
She was my favorite character to play as when I was playing on the free weekend.
Oh, I love her now. Yeah, I remember you were playing as her quite a bit. I love her now because now she really feels like an actual like recon character, which is what she was supposed to be. I mean, there's some caveats, like the translocator can now be destroyed by enemy players if they find it, so they can shoot it and destroy it, and then you're screwed. And when you're invisible, so in the previous build and in this build, when you're invisible, if you try to hack someone or try to shoot someone, you become visible again. So you can't do that shit and stay invisible. That hasn't changed. But what you could do is, while you're invisible, is actually capture a point. And, you can play mind games with the enemy players by doing that because they can't find you and you're trying to and you're capturing this point. You can no longer capture points while invisible, which to me makes sense. Like, that would be bullshit if you could do that and stay invisible forever. When she's invisible, she runs faster. Now she doesn't run quite. She still runs faster than normal, but not quite as fast. I don't know why they slowed her down, but they did a little bit. And the other thing they did was, in the previous build, if an enemy player got within like 2 meters of you, they saw a shimmer. So you couldn't just bumblefuck your way into enemy players. They would see your shimmer. Right. Now it's 4 meters. Again, I'm not sure why they increase that distance, but now you have to give a much wider berth. But otherwise, it feels really good to play as her now you can actually like set yourself up to for advantageous hacks, or to get into really good places to help your team. So I really like her build now. Been playing a little bit of Ni no Kuni 2. I don't know. I might finish that eventually.
You're not finishing that game. You're not going to finish any RPGs, Craig. Don't lie to anybody.
No, actually, I'm further in Ni no Kuni 2 than I am in Octopath Traveler. So, I like the game, but all the right ingredients are there, but it's slightly undercooked. It's like a dough that's still like a bread that's still a little doughy in the center. Could have used a little more time.
That's my favorite. That's my favorite kind of bread.
It's a little squishy. All right, well, maybe you like Ni no Kuni too. I don't know, but it's got all the. I mean, it has this huge overworld to explore. It's got kingdom building. It's got like these kingdom battles. It's got this really fun real time battle system. But all of it's still like not fully baked. Unfortunately,
I hear a lot of people complaining about the look of the overworld graphics compared to like the rest of the game.
Yeah, all the characters are sort of like these little chibi. What are they? They almost look like Little Tikes people.
I think they're just called little people.
Little
right?
people.
Little people, yeah. They just like these little chibi, tiny little characters. It's a little jarring to have that art difference, but it doesn't. I know a lot of people are a lot more vocal about not liking it, but it doesn't upset me. I don't prefer it, but it doesn't really upset me very much.
Right.
That's also all the art style used in the kingdom battles as well, like these sort of like strategy light, real time strategy light battles that you can engage in for your kingdom. Yeah, like I like it, I do, but there's just times where I'm playing and I'm like, man, this could just be just ever so slightly better, and it would be like a classic JRPG. It really would be like a modern classic of just these things were just slightly better. I have also been playing Fortnite on Switch. I like Fortnite, I guess. It's fine.
Box quote right there.
Right, it's fine. Craig Lipinski. Right now they have a limited time mode, which is 50v50. I don't know why this is limited. This should be permanent because it's really good for beginners, because 50v50 means that you're not going to be like murdered immediately. And the way it works is just that you drop down with a whole mess of your team, and that gives you ample time to like look for weapons and sort of learn the game, I guess. But the difference with 50v50 versus any other mode is that 2 buses fly over the island in opposite directions. And so, like, the opposing team drops from one bus, you fall from another. Whereas in any other mode, everybody's falling from the same bus. If you fall next to someone and they kill you, too bad, so sad. You done goofed. So you're not dropping to the island with enemies. It gives you good time to, like, learn the map, look around for weapons. But one of the other difference here is that there's a storm that incrementally shrinks the playing field. If you're in the storm, you die. So every so often, the storm closes in on the island, making the playfield smaller and smaller. In 50v50, there really aren't any increments. It's basically like, here's the whole island for 10 minutes, and then now here's your murder circle, because that's it. Everyone has to run to the murder circle, and just this giant cinematic epic brawl ensues, and it's great. It's great. I think it's great for beginners. I'm not quite a beginner. I'm not adept at the game either, but even I like it. I just like how these big battles play out at the end. It's a lot of fun, and I mean, if you ever thought maybe I should check out Fortnite, I think the 50v50 event going on right now is a good time to do that.
That's weird. That's just an event,
right? I think that it should totally be permanent, because it to me it's like the only way to play the game. Any other time, it's like, cool, that was a good 3.5 minutes. I'll start my next round. And finally, I played a little bit of Captain Toad on the 3DS. And
on the 3DS.
So here's the interesting.
That means no blue cursor, right?
No blue cursor. So the game is still really good. I forgot about this one thing that it does, is that each map has like a challenge, but it doesn't tell you the challenge until you've already completed the map at least once.
Oh god, that's awful.
Yeah.
And you can complete the challenge without knowing it, but the game doesn't tell you ahead of time. So then I guess it encourages replayability, but just tell me the fucking challenge, dude. Like, it's fine. Just tell me the challenge.
It sucks because some of the challenges are like, find the golden mushroom, which is not a big deal. But sometimes the challenge is like, don't get hit by an enemy. And then you could screw yourself and not realize it.
Right, exactly. Like, I guess I'll do this again.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't love that. But
it has a time mode challenge too after you beat it, right?
I don't remember.
All right. I'm pretty sure there's a time thing. I think it's very small underneath the little notebook page.
Oh, okay.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
I hadn't seen that yet, but I do remember that is there. You're right.
And now there's like a pixely. Now you got there's like a hide and go seek with like Pixel Toad or something now too. I don't think that was in the Wii U version. I don't recall that.
It might have been an update. I know they like added. That was an update that they did with the Toad amiibo.
Oh, okay.
When they added amiibo support into the Wii U one.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that. Yeah. Okay. Well, it's stock standard. After you finish the map, I think it's after you finish the map the first time.
Yeah, after you finish a map, it gives you the option to go back and find the Pixel Toad.
It looks good on the 3DS. The 3D looks nice, but it's actually not as impactful as you think. I would have thought there would have been a much more impact than there is, but. Generally speaking, you're talking about like these sort of like smallish cubes floating in space. It doesn't. There's not a ton of detail to actually see in 3D. So it looks good, but it's not as impactful as I would have thought. But I was sort of left with the thought that like, the 3DS, even when it came out, was not a particularly powerful system. But even still, like it seems like with the right staff, they're able to wrench a lot out of that system. I mean, Captain Toad looks good. I was thinking about other games too, like Monster Hunter Stories. That game looks good. I mean, the resolution sucks ass on the 3DS. Everything's jagged as hell. But I mean, resolution notwithstanding, they're good-looking games. And then
it has really good shader support, so you get like really cool like texture effects and stuff when used right.
Right.
People like Capcom really knew how to fucking use that shit.
Absolutely, and there's some decently like sized games on there too, like some of the the Monster Hunters and like Xenoblade. Like, I mean, that's like the little system that could it's actually kind of impressive what it can do. I mean, I think I feel like the ceiling's been reached. I don't think we're going to see any breakthroughs on the thing. But it's actually really impressive. It's also interesting to me too because Nintendo had said that the Switch is not like their next handheld. It's not the next evolution of 3DS. And it's sort of like the same rhetoric that they had with like the DS, like, oh, this is not replacing the Game Boy.
Third pillar.
Right, the third pillar. But then it totally ended up replacing the Game Boy. But that hasn't happened here yet. I mean, that's sort of like cautious language, right? Because they're not sure how successful the DS or the Switch is going to be. But the Switch is a runaway hit, just like the DS was. But they haven't sort of double backed on that. They're still supporting the 3DS, and it's really interesting to see the sort of games that are coming out on the 3DS. They're not really Switch games. There's some overlap, but not a lot of overlap. You got like WarioWare. You have the weird armadillo game that apparently the guy I don't know who owes who a favor, but that armadillo keeps getting fucking games.
It's the Japanese producer that always works with Retro Studios on their games. I can't remember his name right now.
Tanabe?
Tanabe. Yeah, I'm sure that's it.
The WarioWare, they got the Luigi's Mansion remake and the Dark Moon engine, and they're not full retail Switch games. Even when there's an overlap with like things like Captain Toad and Sushi Striker, those aren't full price retail games. And I imagine with something like Captain Toad, I mean, I'm sure that began life as like a Switch port, and someone went, "Yeah, I'm pretty sure we can get this running on 3DS." and with Sushi Striker, I get the impression that they wanted to recoup they probably sunk more money into that than they wanted to, and then had it on Switch as well.
Yeah, Sushi Striker definitely seems like a 3DS first game.
Right. I think they probably went to Indie Zero and was like, make us a cute little sushi puzzle game. And they're like, sushi RPG puzzle game with Pokemon and an anime intro? You got it. And Nintendo's like, fuck. Are we splitting the bill? What are we doing?
They're not recouping money on that.
No,
one,
they're not. I bought it, but I haven't played it yet. But everything I've heard is that it's really good, but no one bought it.
I think it's like on discount prices on Amazon already.
It is. It has. Yeah, it's been lowered in price. So yeah, I don't think they're recouping shit on that one. But it's just really interesting that they're committed to that rhetoric. The 3DS is a completely separate system. It sounds like to some people's chagrin, like a lot of people are upset that like these games aren't on Switch, which I get because it's a nicer system. But it's nice to see that they're still supporting the 3DS wholeheartedly.
Is it wholeheartedly? It seems more like low-effortedly.
Maybe modest effort. I don't think low. I don't think low's the right. I mean, not in the same way that you see, like, I mean, it's certainly better than how Sony supported the Vita even in its heyday, I feel like.
Right.
Yeah.
But it's not to the same level that Nintendo was supporting it when the 3DS was.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, but apparently the new WarioWare is great. I picked it up today. I haven't had a chance to play it. And it's
WarioWare is always great, man.
And it seems to be a lot of like ports and adaptations. The Luigi's Mansion, the Mario and Luigi games, Captain Toad, but
they're still bringing over some late ass Japanese localizations. Like I'm pretty sure Yokai Watch Busters or something was announced, and that game's like 2 or 3 years old, if not more.
Yeah, plus they still got Yokai Watch 3 to bring out over here, so there's still room for that. And I'm sure I feel like they will. I feel like they'll, that'll be like a Twilight game for the system, but it'll come out. So I don't know. Maybe wholeheartedly isn't the right word, but I wouldn't call that like half-assed or low either, though.
I mean, for a system that's 6 years old at this point, I think the fact that it's still out there and still getting new games is admirable.
Especially when their new system is slaying.
Yeah, exactly. They were saying for the longest time, the Switch is the 3DS is going to be supported well into 2018. And after the Switch started to take off, I said, yeah, right. And they have been true to their word. Maybe it's not getting, the support it got 3 years ago, but it is getting support, and that is very surprising to me. But I think it's great because the 3DS has been a great system, and the fact that it's getting the games that it is, they may not be, the same high quality, full, $60 retail releases Switch is getting, but it's getting some good stuff. Yeah, and if you still have a 3DS, you should be happy.
I also think that's the point, is that they're not $60 games. Like, this is like the haven for the not $60 projects.
Right.
Plus, Atlas has that new Persona Q game coming out, too.
Do they?
Yeah, they committed that to 3DS like years ago. I'm sure they're kicking themselves in the ass about it now, but yeah, that's still coming.
Nintendo's usually good at like long supporting their handhelds, though, right? It's not like their consoles were like just no games for like 6 months between like the GameCube and the Wii or whatever.
No, that's true.
6 months. That's it.
It's like, we're done with the N64. No more games. Wait for the GameCube.
But I also think with the hybrid nature of the Switch is that people probably look at it as a successor to both the 3DS and the Wii U.
Right. Mm-hmm. And that's kind of why it's so surprising. You know, I honestly don't play my 3DS all that much. That's not to say I'm going to skip a game if there's a good game that comes out that I want. I'm not going to say, oh, it's on 3DS, that's garbage. But like, I take my Switch with me a lot more than I do my 3DS. So I could totally understand if they weren't going to support it anymore. But like I said, they've been true to their word. They really have.
Nintendo not lying for once.
Right, for once.
True.
Yeah, but that's me. Seth, what have you been playing?
I didn't want to play any video games aside from Xenoblade, but I was like, all right, I better actually play something else just so I'm not just like Chris talking about Celeste for 10 weeks straight.
No, I talked about it like once. We just didn't have a podcast for like 3 months.
Oh, well, either way.
Same thing.
It was 2 episodes in a row, that's all.
I choose to remember it my way.
That's fine. Yours will become the truth.
So I played some Runner 3 on Switch, and it's been like a million years since I played the original Bit Trip Runner or Runner 2. So like all I remember from those games is that I liked the first Runner game, and I did not like the second Runner game, and I can't remember exactly why. But I'm liking Runner 3 a lot. I don't even know how do I talk about this game? All right, so there's like multiple paths on the levels. It's all like fancy 3D, just like the second one. There's multiple paths. There's like a gold path, and then after you beat the gold path, you could unlock a gem path, which is like usually a harder route with different collectibles to pick up. Gems along with the gold, if the gem path name didn't clue you in. And then there's also like one collectible on each stage that's a little puppet, like a little paper puppet figure. And sometimes you have to like go off path even from like the gold or the gem, so you might not be able to like get a perfect on a level if you're going after the puppet. And the point of the puppets is if you collect all of them on a level on a world, then you get like a little cutscene. You got to unlock cutscenes in this game. That's how it's working, I guess. And they're just like little puppet theater things that are really funny and cute. And they're well narrated by Charles Martinet, which is apparently how you say his name. I've been calling him Martinet, but he says when you start up the game, I'm Charles Martinet, and you're not. Anyway, this is Runner 3, and stuff like that. So it's humorous. There's humor in there. All the levels in the first world are food puns, because why not? So there's abilities. I don't know. That's boring to talk about. Oh, there's characters you could unlock. There's things called hero quests in some of the levels where it's another branching path that you take off the main running path, and a character or two will give you a quest to do. And I've only done one, and that was going to previous levels that I had already cleared and finding more collectibles yet on a level. In this case, it was rotting shrimp to serve at their wedding, because everybody wants rotting shrimp at their wedding. And once I completed that, I unlocked Dave from the indie game Whoa Dave. I don't know what other characters there are to unlock, but I don't know. The game feels good to play. There's different sections aside from running. You could like get in vehicles, and when you're in vehicles, you have full control with like the analog stick or D-pad. You could have full screen movement range, and then there's bosses. And the first boss was kind of lame, but it's not a runner at all. You're on a track and you're just moving back and forth, dodging bullets and catching sausages and grounding them up and shooting them back at Sausage Santa, as one does.
Oh,
naturally.
Yeah, well, Sausage Santa went evil. Apparently, he was replaced by a robot. I don't know what happened to the real Sausage Santa.
Automation comes for all of us in the end.
Evil Sausage Santa robot.
Evil robot Sausage Santa. Okay,
exactly. But no, I'm liking it. It's a fun game. I like it better than the second one, even though I don't remember why I did not like the second one. And then I also played some Code of Princess EX. I'm playing it for the story. Wink. It runs a lot better than the 3DS version, which had like a shit ton of slowdown. I haven't noticed like any slowdown at all in this version.
Is it really slowed down if the game permanently runs at that speed? That 3DS version was like running through syrup.
All right, I guess the 3DS version had like speed up moments like for 10 seconds here and there when there were no enemies on screen. The game runs good. It runs good now. It's not syrup anymore for sure. I only played like an hour of that, like right before we recorded this podcast, just so I could get another game in there to talk about. It looks good. It's like nice and clear and sharp, but a little sterile. It looks like more sterile looking than the 3DS version, especially the backgrounds. The characters look great. The backgrounds look more sterile, but the trade-off is they're not like blurry pieces of shit.
I wonder if that's because you're playing on a bigger screen.
It has to be like not a big budget port. I don't know if they like ran backgrounds through filters or they just did like because they're 3D, so maybe just like really cheap just like texture upgrades and stuff on them. I don't know, but it's overall I would say it looks better than the original. I mean, and it obviously runs better. But it's still fun. I mean, it's pretty basic beat 'em up where you just go like each level's a mission with an overly long cutscene in the beginning, which you could skip if you're into that sort of thing.
Yes, I am.
Yeah, yes, I mean, it's like a 5-minute cutscene, and then like you play for like a minute and a half to 2 minutes just beating people up. But it's fun, and I think this version has local play, which is cool.
Does it have online play like this 3DS?
It has online play as well. Yes. There's an option right at the beginning for online. And I forgot that, like, this game is just, like, doesn't give a fuck with its writing. It's very, like... There's a scene, like, when you first meet the zombie girl Zozo, and one of the, like, guards is harassing her. He's like, oh, I knew it. You are a zombie, and that's illegal. Like, just really stupid. Who cares? Because
that's illegal?
They know... That's illegal. It's illegal to be a zombie.
That's actually fantastic, is what that is.
Yeah, right. They didn't care, so they just wrote whatever. They know it's dumb, so they just wrote things that are knowingly dumb, and it works.
Just leaned into it.
Yep, exactly. But it's pretty fun. I'm gonna play that. I need to find somebody else who bought this game. I know 5 other people, and I just noticed that both these guys are like a Nicholas. How do you pronounce this company's name? Nicholas, is that?
I've always said Nicholas. I don't know if that's...
All right, that sounds best. That sounds best, so that's not how it's pronounced. It should be. They all come with like these mini CDs and booklets and keychains, and there's just all sorts of goodies when you open up those Switch cases. I'm surprised they could fit so much in there. But that's it for me. Aside from Xenoblade, God, I just want to fucking play Xenoblade. I'm not even doing anything in that game anymore. I'm just like leveling up. Blade affinity charts. I'm just like, oh, it says to go kill 5 of these monsters. I'm going to go do that. Oh, got to do some sort of blade combo. Going to do that, and I'm enjoying it. It's just time wasting trash at this point, and I'm loving it. I don't want to continue the story because I'm really near the end, and I don't want it to end. So I'm just doing time killing stuff.
If you don't want to play other things, Seth, you don't have to. You can just talk about the same thing for like 7 weeks. Trust me, I've done this.
I know.
We're making this history now. That's what happened.
It was like 2 years of just you playing.
There actually wasn't a like 5-month break. There was actually like 10 different episodes where I just talked about Celeste and we just deleted them all.
God, I'm worried. I'm so worried that like one of our Audacities or computers is going to like freeze up and we're just going to lose an entire episode at some point, because when we're doing it this way with the Skype, we had a downfall. I mean, we had a backup. If one of us dropped a call or something, we could just keep it going. I don't even know what the backup plan is if we lose one of our Audacity recordings now that we're doing
the episode
tracks.
Doesn't go out. I mean, that's
man.
It would be a shame if we missed a week. That's never happened before.
Well, I mean, it would just be a shame to waste time recording an episode and then just losing it all.
Yeah, I hate talking to you guys, so I mean, I don't want to waste an episode.
I don't want to imagine we'd have to record it again. Jesus.
Chris, tell us about Celeste.
Yeah, I've actually been diving back into Celeste. No, I haven't played a goddamn thing in the last 2 weeks. Sorry, guys, I let you down.
No, that's fine.
I mean the listeners, not you guys. I don't care about you guys.
Oh, okay. Well, they don't care either.
I don't care about any of.
I care about everybody.
You're such a caring person, Seth. That makes one of us.
Thank you. Except for those fucking people without jobs in Connecticut. Jesus Christ.
Well, at least they're learning how to use LinkedIn.
Yes.
They're trying to better themselves, Seth. Leave them alone.
No, the state's trying to better them.
Okay, somebody's trying to better somebody. That's what matters.
They know what they're doing. I mean, is it costing the state more to? They must have figured this budget out.
It's got to be costing the state more. I mean, yeah. I mean, someone's got to be paying for this. I can't imagine that. Yeah, I don't know.
That's dumb. I mean, that's just money that could be going towards the unemployment.
Or towards something else altogether. It was funny because like the woman had said something along the lines of how like they eliminated several like training facilities. So like the place that I went to was the only one in the area to take like the classes. And she's like, yeah, we just eliminated those places. So I'm sitting here thinking like, man, how much would it suck to be unemployed from your job at unemployment and collecting unemployment from unemployment?
Yo, dog, I heard you like unemployment.
And then have to go to one of those fucking training sessions I went to the fucking place you just worked at.
Be like, I had a job, man. I was here. I was doing your job. News?
Yeah, let's do some news.
Let's do some news.
All right.
There was a trailer for that new Castlevania season. We talked about the first season of Castlevania on the show. I think we all reasonably liked it.
Yeah,
it was okay.
Yeah, it was. I think that's how I feel about it. It was okay. I'll probably check out the new season.
The trailer looks pretty cool. I mean, the whole thing's not taking place in one town where they fall through floors 20 times.
Right.
Like, how deep is this town?
It's built on top of 10 other towns.
Like every town is. Is your town not like that?
Maybe.
Have you ever fallen through the floor in your town, Seth? I guess they call that the ground of your floor. Ground of your town.
In Seattle, I took a tour of like underground Seattle, and there was like town under there. So maybe that is a thing.
2 for 2.
All right.
That comes out October 26th, just in time for Halloween. So
it's a good time frame.
Like I said, I enjoyed the first season well enough. I'll probably check this out.
I got this weird sense of when I was watching the trailer, there was some scenes where they were fighting wolves outdoors. Right. And for some reason I got like this, I don't know, like this, I can't explain it, but like this whiff of like Castlevania on the Nintendo 64. It kind of felt like Castlevania on Nintendo 64.
I never played that, but it did remind me of the Castlevania on PS3, whatever.
Lords of Shadow.
Lords of Shadow.
Because the opening there's a lot of wolves in forests.
Oh yeah,
in the opening of that sprawling 75-hour fucking epic.
Jesus Christ,
that's the longest fucking game of all time.
I swear I played that game for like 15 hours and I got nowhere.
That's just so long.
I think that's about what I did, and then I quit.
Yeah, I mean, I was like enjoying it too, and I just felt like I wasn't like getting anywhere. Well, I was semi-enjoying it. I could not stand Patrick Stewart's misread narration before every level.
I will say on the subject of Castlevania on Nintendo 64, it's not nearly as bad as people say. It ain't great, but it's not nearly as bad.
That seems to be the case for a lot of bad games. People way overblow it. That's the internet for you.
Yeah.
What else?
We got a new Labo, new Toy-Con number 3, which is going to be a vehicle.
The footage of the game that they're showing actually looks like cool. I mean, they're actually showing lots of footage of the game, which makes me think it might actually be more of a game, because I know like fuck all of what kind of software is with the Toy-Con that comes with the keyboard and stuff.
Yeah,
and I've seen probably like 5 seconds of the robot game in Toy-Con, but this one they're showing like a bunch of stuff, so people driving around and flying around and going into submarines and stuff.
I'd actually play the game if I didn't need all the cardboard.
No, you need.
Yeah, I have no interest in. I mean, I think Lab was like really cool. I just don't want all that shit clogging up my house anymore.
That's the thing. Like, I own a house and I have the space for it now, and I don't want to clog up my space with it.
I bought Labo Toy-Con 1 or whatever, and I just don't have the effort in me to build it because I'm like, where am I going to stick these things?
Right.
Where are they going to go? They're so nice and neat.
And the reaction that I saw on Twitter to this new Labo was really positive, but I also feel like I don't know if like the enthusiasm has been cooled a little bit on Labo.
Yeah, like there's so many people were like, "Oh, this thing's going to be like huge. It's going to blow up huge," and it's done decent like numbers.
1.39 million for the 2 kits that are out there now is the numbers that we're seeing.
Yeah,
which is pretty solid.
Yeah, it says of the end of June, and a lot of people are like, "Wait till Christmas; it'll sell more like a toy than like video games are toys already." So
right.
I don't know but I don't know. I mean, obviously, Nintendo's selling enough for them to put out a third Toy-Con, but I'm not entirely sure about this whole Labo future at this point.
Yeah, I mean, I'm with you. I think this one is maybe a little more interesting to me than the other 2 were, but. Still, I don't know that I'm the audience for it, so I'm probably not going to end up picking this up. But that being said, I hope it does well because it's super cool and super interesting and not like anything else that's out there. So,
I just remembered that they added like the motorcycle handle part into Mario Kart 8, so you could like use that to drive the bikes in Mario Kart 8 now. And I just 100% guarantee they're going to do that with this steering wheel and pedal that's in this Toy-Con, so that you could drive the karts. So I mean, it depends on how their integration goes into other games and stuff, and I don't know. I mean, there's interesting things they could do with it, but I'm still not 100% sure on how it's going to go.
Yeah, I hope it does well. I think Labo's really interesting, even if it's not for me. Mm-hmm. There's plenty of room for things that aren't for me. Not everything needs to be for 30-something white men.
No, Chris. If it's not for you, you get on that internet and you start complaining this instant and ask why Nintendo's wasting all their time and money making this bullshit.
All right. I think we need to go start a podcast where we can start bitching about all these things. Let's do it.
I'm into it. And we're too positive on Nintendo. We should just fucking bash
Fuck Nintendo.
Fuck the Labo. That's some little kiddie bullshit.
Seriously.
Jesus Christ. Where's my Metroid? Where's my adult Metroid?
Where's my Metroid?
Nintendo.
Where's my Metroid?
I need Samus to blast some heads open.
If only there were some 2D Metroid-style games coming out on Switch this month. There are so many Metroid-style games, you guys. I remember when I wanted Metroid games, and now there are too many Metroid-style games.
Too many Metroid games. Everything's a Metroid.
Seriously.
What else we got in news?
Thank you for getting us back on track, Craig.
That was very polite.
We got this article about the difference between the audience for Switch and for the Wii, which is talking about how, the Wii took off and its biggest sellers were a lot of the casual type games, your Wii Sports, your Wii Play, things like that. Whereas on Switch, a lot of the biggest sellers are, Breath of the Wild and Mario Odyssey and Splatoon. And there have still been casual games, like 1-2 Switch was one of their big things they were pushing before launch and was at launch, and doesn't seem to have done quite as well, which is kind of interesting. What do you guys think about this?
I mean, we launched with Twilight Princess and Wii Sports, which was a pack-in, obviously.
Right.
Twilight Princess isn't even one of the Wii's best-selling games.
Right.
It's not even on their top 10 anywhere, and that was the launch game. And Skyward Sword did terrible numbers, but that was a terrible game. So.
It was also it was well after the Wii had, we talked about Nintendo not supporting their systems well into their life,
right.
And I think that was well after they had committed to not putting out a ton of games for the Wii.
But I think this just shows that the casual audience isn't really there anymore, man. They moved on to tablets and phones and stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, they were ahead of the game. When you had stuff like Brain Age and Wii Sports, I mean, that stuff was huge back, in 2006. But now that you're right, that audience has totally moved on to iPhones. And I mean, everybody's got an iPhone at this. It's hard to believe there was no iPhone in 2006. God,
I wonder though. I mean, obviously the audience has moved on. I mean, I think there are different kinds of casual players. I think there are people that casually play Call of Duty and people who casually play League of Legends, games that we don't think of as casual games. and people casually play them. So I think there's
Fortnite,
right, and there's another good one, Minecraft. So I think that there are different kinds of casual players. The kinds of casual players we're referring to, the stereotypical Wii casual player, definitely moved on to some mobile shit. But the people that exist in like the nebula in between, I don't know. I actually wonder if like Nintendo's strategy of having like these super casual games like Wii Sports, and then like this like games like Mario Kart that's sort of in between, and then like their quote unquote hardcore games at the other end, and trying to bridge those audiences together and get them push like people into a funnel where they are buying more stuff. I wonder if, it took a couple of generations, but I actually wonder if that paid off for at least a segment of the audience.
That would be interesting to see how many people were like just mostly playing Wii Sports and stuff like that, and then just. It's like a drug, man. You start them off with light doses, get them hooked on the hard stuff.
Yeah, I don't know if there's a really good formal way of determining that, but based on these numbers, I mean, I wonder if that's the case for at least some people.
Yeah, because software-wise, especially, Switch is doing crazy numbers.
Yeah.
Somebody's buying it, and obviously way more people than bought the Wii U, and like quote-unquote hardcore Nintendo followers. Even with them buying Switch or Wii U stuff that like did abysmal. So that's a good question.
And it's not like the Switch is doing the sort of stuff that makes like the entrenched PS4 and Xbox players reconsider their entrenchment, right? Because it's still not nearly as powerful. It's still not doing most of the games that they love on Microsoft or Sony systems. So it's not like they're suddenly going, yeah, you know what? Nintendo's going to be my primary system now. I'm going to go do that.
Yeah, and there's a lot of people who, with like kids and stuff, and don't have a lot of time. I think a lot of their audience, just from reading message boards and stuff, are people who were maybe played games more hardcore and just don't have a lot of time for it these days, but now that they have a handheld option that can play more robust games, then there's a better option for people in that situation.
The new casual audience. They've become everything they hate.
It's interesting. Interesting way to look at it.
It is.
Hey, Craig, how's your favorite RPG on Switch selling?
It's surpassed 1 million units shipped. Which means I think that's a pretty decent indication that it's doing well. I mean, it keeps selling out in Japan.
Yeah. They're like, oh, sorry, we didn't print it out enough. Oh, another shipment came out. Oh, sorry, it's still not enough. So people are buying this shit up. People are like, I mean, it's got to be word of mouth at this point, Craig. There's people who are loving this game.
Absolutely. I have no doubt. Like I said earlier, I can completely understand why people are loving it. I just don't. You got to ask all those people the same question you asked me. Are you going to see it through to the end?
Right.
And I guarantee you a good chunk of those people are not.
I wonder how much of it's just nostalgia for the SNES RPGs, and then just play it for like 10 hours and be like, that was a fun little relive kind of.
Right.
And then they're done with it.
Well, I think, honestly, I feel like Bravely... I mean, I said this before. I feel like Bravely Default does everything better that Octopath tries to do. But, I mean, Bravely Default has a lot of, like, callbacks to classic RPGs while also being modern. I think it walks that line far better than Octopath. But it's a really interesting trajectory that these... I mean, there's like a loose series, because actually before... I mean, I'm sure you guys know this, but there was actually a game before the Bravely Default series.
Four Heroes of
Light, which I don't think it was branded a Final Fantasy game in Japan, but it was branded Final Fantasy here. And it was on the DS. It has the same art style, same simplistic JRPG. That was designed as a callback. Not quite as modern. They didn't have the same modern accents that Bravely Default did. But, they sort of built upon that, built Bravely Default. And then now you have Octopath Traveler, which is built upon that foundation. But I don't, like I said, I don't think they did quite as well with that one. But But it's an interesting trajectory in terms of not the complexity of the games themselves, but rather the growth of the audience through those 3 stages. Because I mean, I don't know how well 4 Heroes of Light sold, but I didn't hear fucking anybody talking about that game.
Yeah, no, I don't think that sold gangbusters at all.
And Bravely Default certainly had an audience that was a little bit bigger, and Octopath is bigger than Bravely Default.
Yeah. So it's definitely building up.
Yeah. No, that persistence seems to have paid off. They hit that sweet spot, I guess, where they can hook people in.
And yet Square only chose to publish it in Japan.
Wait, did Nintendo publish it here?
Yeah.
Jesus, what a bunch of little babies. I wonder what, you know what, and I guarantee you Dragon Quest XI is being published by them on PlayStation 4. Because Sony's not going to play that game. They're not going to nah, you do it. We're not doing that.
Yeah, no, that's definitely being published by Square Enix. Because I have it pre-ordered on their Square Enix website. And it's definitely them. Is that it for news?
We can talk about this Madden thing if you want.
Oh, Madden! Forgot about it.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
One of the menu songs in Madden, Big Bank, which is a song I'm totally familiar with. I don't know about you guys.
It's classic.
God,
yeah.
Bump that shit all the time.
It's a banger, as they say.
The original version of the song had a reference to Colin Kaepernick, the NFL player who was famously kneeling during the national anthem to protest the flag itself. No.
Oh,
No.
Really?
I'm sorry. This is not the time to make a joke about that. Please don't think I'm serious.
Incredible.
He was trying to protest police brutality and things that have happened to black people in the last few years. There's a reference to his name in one of the songs in the menus, and it was his name was pulled out, basically censored out.
It's fucking wild.
Which is EA has put out a statement saying it was a mistake, and they're going to put it back in an update. But this seems really suspicious. How do you do that?
So here's my understanding of it is that, and if we're operating in good faith, we can accept this answer. And the mistake is because I'm not too savvy on this, but I think NFL players basically sign away their likeness, they sign themselves away to the league. Mm-hmm. And that's why they can all appear in games and in merchandise and stuff. And so there might have been
part of the Players Association.
Well, I'm sorry?
If they sign up for the Player Association.
Okay. So even though Kaepernick is not currently a player, because his name is appearing in an NFL context, there might have been some confusion over the licensing of his name or likeness used in that particular situation. So if we take that answer on good faith, that seems plausible. I'm skeptical, but okay, that seems like a reasonable excuse, especially if they're going to put his name back in. Mm-hmm. So that seems entirely plausible. And I want to believe that because the only alternative is EA treated his name like a cuss word and censored it out to avoid controversy, which to me is super fucked up.
It's football. I'm not savvy on the NFL, but from what I've read other people saying, it could also have been the NFL itself that mandated his name be taken out of the game and not not part of EA's decision.
It's not even a contractual thing, just we don't want this Kaepernick fella. Which is weird because my understanding is...
Go ahead.
I was just going to say my understanding is that Madden games have actually had Kaepernick in them before. I think even addressed his protests.
Right. The article I read said that he definitely was in Madden 18. He wasn't on a team, but he was a free agent. Disclaimer, I'm not super well versed on the NFL either. So
we're discussing something we're not super well versed in.
We're all well out of our depth at this point.
From what I understand right now, the NFL is treating him like extra shit right now, and he's still not even signed on a team or anything.
Right.
But somebody who plays video games and follows sports could correct us on Twitter and chime in on this because we are probably the least qualified people to.
Please do. We're the blind leading the blind right now, but we're trying.
We're only video game nerds and no sports nerds. So.
I still think it's an interesting story, and
yeah,
it is, and that's why I wanted to bring it up. Like I'm gonna be honest. I have no interest in playing Madden, but the fact that this came up, it seems like I'd like to believe in good faith that it was a total misunderstanding, but it seemed odd to me. So
but that sort of raises the question: why would you use that track at all? It's not like you had to use that track,
right?
And with good faith and EA, it's always best to err on the side of not EA. Yeah. Yep. Mailbag. All right, this question's from Nate. We all love Nate. What are your thoughts on all these companies that are doing limited physical runs of games, limited run games, super rare games, Play Asia, etc.? I found myself drawn to them more now that they are doing Switch releases, but I don't like feeling rushed to buy them. So, what are you guys' thoughts on these small batch games?
I have never actually ordered one, but I love the fact that they exist. I follow limited run games on Twitter, and there are definitely some games I'd love to pick up from them. And I think I agree with Nate. I wish it wasn't such a. I understand it needs to be a short run for production reasons, but I wish that there wasn't such a rush to do it.
Right.
But I think the fact that some of these games that are digital, I talked about how much I loved Celeste. If there's a retail release of Celeste that I can buy, I will be there, 100%. So I found that I enjoy a lot of indie games and these smaller games a lot more in recent years, even more than a lot of the retail releases. So the fact that people are getting the opportunity to have one and have that for preservation and just put that on your shelf I think it's fantastic. And I hope that eventually it gets to a point where we don't have to, wake up at 8 a.m. and make sure to get there first thing so that you don't miss out if you're not there at the first minute.
As far as preservation goes, too, I would say 95% of these games are final patched. You don't have to update them or anything. They have the complete finished game there, and there won't. So 20 years from now, you could pop this game in, don't have to worry about anything being broken or anything.
Right.
Which is cool. Craig, what do you think?
I think overall they're a good thing. In terms of the limited availability, I think in some cases Limited Run does pre-orders and bases their run on that.
They actually have a ton of pre-orders up right now. They got Bastion, Oxenfree, Thumper, Everspace.
Right.
So yeah, they're going more pre-orders these days than a 10-minute window.
Right.
You have to wake up at 6 a.m.
But I think that's because they have the throughput and the clout to do that now.
Yes,
right.
They were working with a very limited budget before.
Right. Mm-hmm. So
they're basically spending their entire budget every time they print a new game.
And this accomplishes. It allows everyone who wants to get a copy of the game, while also still being limited, because once the run is done, it's done. There's only one print run. So it adheres to their mission statement, their name, their brand, while also giving people what they want. So that's cool. I think it's difficult to keep up with all of them now. Not just limited. Even just Limited Run in a vacuum, it's tough. I used to get maybe 1 or 2 emails from them a month. Now I get 30 a fucking week reminding me all these fucking games coming out. It's difficult to keep up with them all. But so many of them are mediocre.
Yeah, absolutely. I haven't heard of a lot of them, and these days I just YouTube the ones, and I'll watch 5 minutes, maybe less, and 90% of them are oh, I don't need this game.
That's why there's a lot of quantity. They're still doing good stuff. Bastion's a good game. I'm actually right now speaking about it, I'm sort of tempted. Oxenfree as well, and that has a really nice Switch cover. It's got a hollow foil cover. I love me some hollow foil covers. I don't do those very much anymore. But there's still a lot of junk too, and it's I don't know why this desire to do all this quantity. They sell through every run, so maybe that's hey, they're just making bank. Doesn't matter if it's a shitty weeb game no one's ever heard of, but I don't know. That just it just sort of I don't know, lowers my outlook on the whole thing, I guess.
That's kind of a point I wanted to bring up. The fact that they sell through every run, even on these super mediocre games, I feel like they prey on certain people's fear of missing out a bit.
Oh, absolutely, 100%.
So, yeah, I mean, it's. I don't even want to call it predatory, but it's obviously a thing. Obviously, I don't have a lot of self-control when it comes to buying games. Craig will buy any fucking 3DS game under the sun.
I do, yeah. I'm glad they never got on the 3DS game because I would have been fucked. And I'm glad that I decided not to collect for Switch because I would be very depressed right now.
Yeah, and I've seen people who collect for the Vita or the PS4, and they are just like, oh, because there's another game. They're never going to play these games. They don't care.
I imagine a good chunk of their audience, I'm not going to say most or half, I'm not going to put a number on it, but I would imagine a good chunk are either not going to play the game at all or play like very little of it, if they even bother to open it.
Yeah, I've seen people who buy 2 copies just to keep one sealed and one to play. And then they do things like alternate covers and stuff, and those are randomized unless you buy like a pack that has all 3 covers, and then they'll guarantee you get one of each. So, I mean, there's a bit of like kind of shitty practices in there, but, you know, overall, I think it's cool that these games are getting physical releases, so they're not just lost away to digital, wherever that might end up in the future.
My favorite is when they're like, "Oh, we sold 3,000 copies of this Vita game. Vita's not dead," and it's Vita's long dead. 3,000 copies of that game, dude. Does not mean Vita's not dead.
It's nothing.
Vita is absolutely dead.
I didn't even know PlayAsia was doing their own limited runs of games.
Yeah, that's news to me too.
And I've never even heard of Super Rare Games, except I was browsing Twitter while we were doing this episode, and I saw somebody had bought now I can't remember what it was.
Flame in the Flood?
Flame in the Flood, that's it.
They had a really nice cover for that, too.
Yeah, that looked really cool.
Yeah.
And that's a good game. I don't know if I'd be if I'd be persuaded to buy a physical copy. I mean, some of these folks are doing... The good games exist, but it's just... Every other game is, like, not a good game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, for me, I think it's great that this stuff exists for, like I said, if there's a game I really enjoy and I want to get a physical copy of that, I potentially can if I get up and, you know, get it first thing in the morning, or if they do pre-orders, that's great too. But obviously somebody like me is not going to sustain their business model. So the fact that people are willing to buy enough games that they can keep doing this, I think is good. But it's unfortunate that it does sound a little shady the way that these things are going down. So I don't know. I'm glad it exists, but maybe a little questionable.
And these days, like, well, you know, like higher quality indie games are actually like more on shelves these days than they were the past generation. Like I said, Nicalis and like 505 Games and stuff like that are putting out a lot more stuff that I, you know, walk into Best Buy and actually see them on the shelf.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, on Switch, I have Axiom Verge and I have Cave Story on Switch, and those are 2 digital games I really enjoyed. So, like I said, I'm just glad to have physical copies of those.
Because, I mean, Indie's like the new, like, I don't want to say B tier because that's not fair because they're not B tier, but it's filled that B tier vacuum.
Yeah,
at any rate,
for sure.
I mean, as far as
you know, I think stuff like limited run games helped like these other companies show that there is demand for some of these games, and that's why some of the bigger ones are actually on store shelves now.
Yeah, that's a good point too. I mean, as far as preservation goes, I'm far be it for me to say that one game deserves to be preserved over another. But I don't know if I don't know. I mean, can you really call this preservation when there's like 3,000 copies of like a game no one really asked for to be pressed to a disc? Is that really preservation? I mean, I don't know if I would go with the preservation aspect because it's not. It's not as all encompassing, right?
Right. I mean,
although this medium does have a real problem with preserving its own history already, but. You know, do we really need, you know, more copies of Night Trap in existence? I don't know. I mean, maybe I'm not the best judge of that, but I don't know. I don't think so.
Yeah, but it doesn't hurt anybody. That's the main thing. It's good overall.
It is. That's true. It does not hurt anyone.
All right. This question is from Josh. All these are on Twitter, by the way. Facebook is dead. What do you think of the sudden increase of retro game collections coming out recently? There have been retro collections before, but this gen seems to really want to bring these titles out.
Are there more than usual?
I don't know. I mean, there seem to be bigger profile. Maybe people care about them more. Like, I see a lot of people talking about Mega Man collections and the Mega Man X collection.
Oh, see, I'm thinking more like the Midway Arcade Treasures and the Capcom Classic Collection. I'm thinking more along those lines because I was thinking there's way more of those like on like PS2. And
nah, you're going too retro, man. you're showing your age.
Yeah, no, that's a good point.
I mean, no, they're good things. But who's going to be mad at them? Who's going to be mad at like people being able to play some awesome games and also Mega Man X7? which is
that was very subtle. It's good.
The rewind feature's like a new thing that you do in this gen. Like all these games have the rewind feature now, and I was surprised because I think Chris was talking about it in the Mega Man Collection 1 and 2, and I was like, "What? That's there?" And now I see it's in a bunch of things.
Yeah, so it's super cool. I mean, like I said, when I talked about Mega Man a couple episodes ago, I never played Mega Man on the NES, and if I were to play it now, I probably wouldn't have the patience to play through the level and then die at the boss and play through the level again, after I get game over. But the fact that they do have these retro collections is fantastic for somebody like me who is in my 30s and doesn't have the time to do that, I would have loved Mega Man when I was 8, but I'm not 8 anymore and I don't have the time to commit to it. So I think it's awesome. Games that I played when I was younger, I still prefer to play on the original hardware. And I'd love to play Mega Man on the original hardware, but I just wouldn't. I'd get to the boss, and I'd get game over, and I'd be like, "Fuck this," and I'd quit, and I'd never play it again. So, for things like that where I've never played it before, I think it's awesome that people have the opportunity to experience these games, but with some modern frills where it's just a little more playable because games were different back then.
I think the rewind feature is a slightly less egregious form of save scumming.
Yeah,
because these games are hard. I mean, these are games that I played as a kid, and I think part of it's just like losing that skill set in my 30s and modern games, just not demanding that kind of play style. But you play them and they're like, wow, this is. I mean, they're not just hard; like they're fucking unfair.
Right.
It's a very old school arcade style of play design, and. Yeah, fuck it. Give me that rewind feature like that. I mean, it actually makes it feel like because you still have to overcome the challenge. Like
right.
You still have to make that jump or beat that enemy. It just instead of losing a life and getting a game over and starting at the beginning of the stage, which is all just time wasting horseshit. You just rewind and then try again. That's fine.
That's exactly what I want. I want to be able to. I'll still be able to beat that boss. It's not like it's letting me skip it. I go back to the beginning of the battle, or if people want to go back a couple seconds and redo that exact move, good for them.
Right.
But
right.
I like that it gives you the option to figure out exactly how you want to do it, and it's giving people the chance to play games they may have missed out on. So I'm all for it.
I think the best part of these retro game collections is that you could buy them for your niece and nephew and then cry as you see how much they hate them and then go back to playing Minecraft.
So old.
What is this? Wow, I'm going to go play Minecraft.
It's all blocky, but it's not 3D.
Thanks, Uncle Seth, for this piece of shit. Last question by Dan Shrek.
Cool
have
name.
You guys ever... Have you guys ever had a game that was there when you needed it most? For me, when I was reaching the height of my depression, Persona 5 was the game that I would look forward to whenever I had the time. I should not have written these in italics. I can't even read them. I had the time. It was comforting and gave me bits of motivation to keep moving along. So games that were there when you needed them. Not necessarily depression, but just when you needed them. Craig.
I can't really think of it. You think I'd be the perfect candidate for this? But I can't. There might have been something.
How about just any games and you could escape your shitty parents when you were little?
Well, yeah. I mean, there's certainly escapism. I think the Nintendo 64 was very good for that because that'd be me and my siblings playing together. Actually, Metal Gear Solid, and this is going to get way too weepy and abstract almost, but
that's fine.
So Metal Gear Solid came out around the time I found out that my dad wasn't my real dad, and my real dad wanted nothing to do with me. And I also found out that my real dad had other kids he wanted something to do with. And so Metal Gear Solid kind of touches on that, that, you know, Liquid is initially led to believe that he is the lesser sibling. It's really Snake. But they were unwanted. I mean, I can't speak French, but they were the terrible infants. And, you know, that kind of resonated with me. You know, again, this is, you know, I was a teenager, and this is the way teenagers think, but that I identify with the fact that I too was the unwanted child, that I felt I was the lesser sibling. And so I wouldn't say Metal Gear Solid was there for me, but I was able to project myself onto that game in a way that perhaps that game did not intend.
That's good. I like that.
Yeah, if it helped you get through a difficult time, I think that's what matters. It doesn't matter what the game's intent was. For me, there's not really a game I can think of that helped me through a specific time in that way. But, you know, something I do every year. My sister passed away a number of years ago as a result of drugs. And her favorite game was Donkey Kong Country 2 on the Super NES. And every year around her birthday, I play through that game because it was a game she loved. And, you know, doing something that somebody you loved kind of brings you back to that time. So every year when I'm feeling kind of down about that, it just kind of takes me back and makes me feel a little better. What about you, Seth?
That's nice, too. For a really long time, I had trouble finding motivation to even play video games when I was depressed. I would just literally not do anything except lie in bed. So I remember I tried to play Mother 3 during a really bad depression episode, and I the beginning of that game.
Not a good choice, Seth.
Is not conducive. I did not know. I actually had to stop. I didn't pick that game up again until like a year later.
Oh, that is a fantastic game, but that is not a game to play if you're depressed.
Yeah, no, it's really, really not. I did not know it was going to be that heavy for a GBA game, especially.
And right from the start, God, that first chapter is rough.
Yeah, it was brutal. That killed me. But recently, I find that if I can force myself to start playing a game when I'm going through hard times, then it becomes something to look forward to and just get my mind off of it. Around Christmas of 2016, some really bad stuff happened that I can't get into. And I was just months of depression, and then the Switch came out and Breath of the Wild came out, and I was able to just lose myself in Hyrule there, and that was really nice because that was just letting me get out of my own head, and just, you know, helping me do anything aside from feeling like a huge giant piece of shit. And so that helped a lot. And then just recently I played through Nier, like I told you guys a few months ago, and that was just really resonating with me, just with a lot of stuff that I was feeling, just because that game's like very somber and it doesn't try to like paint a picture that everything's going to be happy or all right. Quite the opposite, but it's sort of like that you just persevere regardless of how bad the situations are, and that actually helped me connect to that game a lot more than a lot of other stuff I played recently. So that's my answer, and that was a really good question. I like that question.
It was a good question.
All right, that's it for Mailbag.
Sounds like that's it for the podcast.
So long, Pod. I'm glad we could go out on such like a positive note there.
What about our Road to El Dorado segment?
That's been canceled. Blue Apron's not going to sponsor that segment anymore. Yeah.
Road to El Dorado, brought to you by Blue Apron. Fantastic.
We're in talks with HelloFresh, so hopefully that segment will be back.
Every time I hear that commercial on the radio, I swear they're saying HelloFresh, and I just think that would be like such a better name. That would like
That's such a HelloFresh.
Yeah, well, get some HelloFresh. Get your HelloFresh.
Stay HelloFresh.
Exactly.
All right. Well, I want to thank everyone for listening. You can find Ludowave Radio on our home on SoundCloud, soundcloud.com/Ludowave Radio. You can also find us on Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Stitcher, wherever you get your podcast. Please review us. Actually, we did get a review. We got someone who loved the podcast, but thinks I'm totally wrong about DreamWorks. So, womp womp. I mean, I don't know if it's such classics as Shrek Ever After. I don't know what really sells DreamWorks, but apparently people love them. You can also find Ludowave Radio on both Twitter and Facebook at Ludowave Radio on both. You can find the theme song. Sorry, I actually made a list now. I have a list. I have a rundown. I got to go.
You fucked it up now that you have.
I have the list. I still screwed it up. Isn't that fantastic? Our theme song is composed exclusively for us by Morning Moon and Mercury. You can find more of his stuff at morningmoonandmercury.bandcamp.com. You can find me on Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube at TV and Lust on all three. Seth, where can people find you?
I am only on Twitter at Seth Gastelum. And Chris?
You can find me on Twitter and Instagram, but not YouTube, at eChrisDunn.
And we're out.
I